recognizing the importance of sharing this message today to inspire you all. Because no matter who we are, we need inspiration. And I know you impart on students and all the staff here, on each other, that inspiration when you're feeling down or feel like you're having a struggle. I want to thank Carmen Bermudez and Tom Feeney for introducing me to Dean Canaan at the President's Tailgate Party just this last fall, which is the very reason that I'm here with my husband Patrick. Thank you so much for that. It's a small world, and we're all connected. I believe even James Rashawn, are you here? One of the faculty here, actually his wife went to school with me. So we were connected thanks to Dean Canaan about possibilities about a course or some kind of educational curriculum. And James called me up when we got connected, and turns out his wife was in school with me. So we are all connected in some degree in this room. You'd be surprised. And it is always so wonderful to come back home. Come back home full circle right here at the University of Arizona when I set off and got launched off into the world ready to conquer it all. And now having traveled to 28 different countries in places where the message that disability does not mean inability needs to be heard even louder than right here in our home. Because we have the Americans with Disabilities Act. We have the ways to make sure that there's equal opportunity. But so many places abroad, as Patrick and I will tell you in our experiences, we see the stigma loud and clear, and the unfortunate realities of people with disabilities who don't get to go to school, those who don't get to have a job or get married or have the same opportunities. So that is very much a part of the advocacy, and today I'm going to talk about the grit, because as Dean Canaan said, we all need to get back up. No matter who we are, no matter what adversities we face, we all need to get back up and keep going and keep moving. And I want to also acknowledge the wonderful students who took time out of their rodeo break to be here. Because on rodeo weekend, I know I was sleeping in. And so congratulations to those students. I know your son would have been here, but to his classmates who've taken the effort and time to wake up early on a Friday of rodeo break to be here. So I commend you. I hope you take away something valuable that you can share with your classmates as well. You know, when I was born, it came as a complete shock. In the 80s, sonograms were not very clear. Not like now, you can see them in 3D, you know, if a baby's a boy or a girl, and all the details and the features. But in the 80s, when my mom went in for sonograms, they came out normal. So to the shock of both of my parents and the entire staff in the operating room, out I came into the world with a loud voice, but without 2 arms. And it really shocked my parents. I never understood the magnitude of my birth until my nieces Zoe and my niece Malaya were born. They're now 8 and 5. But I was there for them when they were born. And when they're born in the world, we have this love for our children, the love and the hope that the entire world is open to them, that possibilities are endless, and we want to protect them. And that was my mother. She wanted to protect me from hardship, but she knew when she saw that I didn't have arms that that was going to mean a life of hardship. But what she didn't know is she couldn't in that moment see the light at the end of the tunnel. You see, the very hardship that my not having arms gave me in those beginning years was the foundation for grit, the foundation for perseverance, the foundation for strength. And so it's true for each and every one of us. When we're deep in the midst of adversity, something difficult, something challenging, something that really stretches us, it's hard at times to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But once we come out of that and we look back, we recognize, wow, that wasn't as hard. Wow, I grew from that. I gained strength from that. I learned something valuable from that. And our adversity has then served us. So think for a moment, perhaps in your own life, something that you, or even now, are faced with. Because While it's difficult in the moment, it is actually making us a better person. And we have an opportunity to gain grit from our own adversity. So I wish that for all of you, 1 in 5 people will have a disability at some point in their lifetime. It is the only minority you can join at any moment in time. But what about those disabilities that we can't always see? Because after all, the majority of disabilities are actually invisible to the eye. Everyone has something, some adversity, some challenge, something emotional, something traumatic that may have happened that we interpreted in our limited understanding. The average person receives 180,000 negative imprints by the time they're age 18. So we all have something we faced. We all have had some adversity, and it's part of life. But do we pull out the positive from that? And today I want to share with you and highlight the positive of adversity in developing a foundation for each and every one of you to develop that grit and impart that on those who you affect in your own life. For the staff, on the students, for colleagues, for family, for friends, for anyone. Because we tend to veer away from that which makes us uncomfortable. But in reality, it stretches us to make us a better person. Now I'm going to rewind a little bit here, going back to my childhood, and I'm going to take you through a little journey. But I want you to use your imagination to the best of your abilities, because as children we have great imaginations, and I want to bring you back to your childhood and being on the playground in elementary school. And I'm going to bring you back to my childhood, being on the playground in Sierra Vista, Arizona, at a little small school, Carmichael, a public school, because this small town did not offer a special school for a child with a disability. And my mom figured, I need to get out there eventually into the real world. There's no need to protect you from the real world. So I went to school like my older brother Jason, and eventually my younger sister Jackie, a public school in Sierra Vista. And on the playground in elementary school, I remember the day the teacher announced, today I'm going to teach you how to tie your shoelaces. And we all remember learning to tie our shoes. I remember it like it was yesterday. Sitting there, imagine this, the bell has rang for recess. We run outside on the playground. The teacher says, before you go out and play, I have to first teach you how to tie your shoes so you don't trip and fall on the playground. So everyone, have a seat. Have a seat and watch me very closely as I demonstrate how to tie your laces. Well, I watched her very closely, and she first put her foot inside the shoe. I'm going to take my shoes off, and instead of using my nice red ones, I'm going to use this. And I noticed that some of the students back there are trying to get up a little to see, so I'm going to push this as far back as I can. Patrick, do you mind taking these cans and the hook? Those are for later, but I want to make sure, let me know if you can see me if I push my chair. Or if you need to come forward, feel free to come forward. You don't want to miss this, so come on. Come forward, come on. Yeah, there's a couple seats here in front. Yeah, you really don't want to miss this, so I'm not going to do this, but once or twice, so. Please, yes, thank you for coming forward. It looks like we have some students too, great. Awesome. Okay. We have one more person join us. Please come forward. Sorry, that's Nicole. And by the way, Nicole and Kate, thank you for arranging this. Put this together. It's wonderful what you guys are doing, what you did today to make this possible. So, there I was on the playground, watching my teacher with her foot inside the shoe. But that was not going to work for me. Sure, I could rely on my teacher to tie my shoelaces for me every single day. Sure, my older brother Jason, even my mom. There was always going to be adults around. I wanted so much to prove that I wasn't helpless. So I was determined to figure this out. But the first thing was first. I could not have my foot inside the shoe because I need my toes, I need my feet free to do the things that I do with my feet. By 6 years old, they already became my hands. They were already my fingers and my hands. So unlike everyone else in class, I took both feet out of the shoe. And I had this mental recognition that you don't have to tackle challenges in the same way everyone else does. You can step back. You can do it differently. There's nothing wrong with different as long as the task is done. And that was the part of the growth mindset that was part of my life. And I took the laces over and through and pulled to tighten. Now, my teacher said you could either use one bunny ear or two. Well, I'm going to start with one. There I was, trying to form those bunny ears with my toes. At the same time, grab the other lace, slowly, very carefully over, and this was the hardest part. Get that lace through the little hole, and thousands of times later, tie the bow. Now, I can slip my foot back in, but it was too tight. I had to untie the laces and then retie them with enough room to slip my foot in. So smaller bunny ear this time, over and through and pull to tighten, and not as tight as the previous, but just as long as the job was done. And then pulled up on the tongue, and I slipped my foot in, and I wondered, what about the other foot? Tie both shoes first. Make sure they're loose enough, and slip your feet in. So, that's exactly what I did. It took the entire recess. And after those hundreds of tries, the bell rang for everyone to come in. Everyone who was out playing on the playground, they came in and we went into class, and I looked down at my shoes so proudly. I lifted my feet up to my teacher and I said, "Look, I tied my own shoelaces." And Mrs. Roach said, "You not only tied your own shoelaces, but you were thinking outside the shoe." And that's exactly how I started my life, thinking outside the shoe. And that was my first step to the growth mindset. The recognition that it can be done in a different way. You don't have to do it the way everyone else does it. I could talk days and days about grit, but I'm going to start with that growth mindset because that's my starting point. Now fast forward. We're going to use this as a representative of an airplane. Now this is the 1946 415C Aircoupe airplane, a plane built in the 40s, designed in the 30s, and a unique plane for me because the ailerons and the rotors are interconnected. And that sounds like a whole bunch of weird words for someone who's not a pilot. But basically it means you can fly the plane with two limbs. So the two limbs I'm going to fly the plane with, or attempt to fly with, are my feet and my legs. So there I was, the first day of flight training, trying to conquer what many people thought was impossible. Fly a plane without anyone else in the airplane, convince the Federal Aviation Administration that I was, in fact, good enough to fly, and basically land the plane. So be able to survive flight, right? And what I didn't know at the time was in the 1920s, a woman without arms attempted to do the same thing, but never survived to tell the story in the process of her solo cross country. So here I was, everything was stacked against me. No one had ever done this successfully before. And now, with the help of an armed instructor, we were attempting to do the impossible. And my instructor sat beside me, in the right seat as I sat in the left seat, which is the pilot in command seat, sitting there wondering, okay, well, I'm going to need to figure out the very first thing, and, well, headset. 2 broken headsets later, I held that with one foot, and I brought it over to my chin, and I brought it over my head just like this. Brought the mic down, and I conquered the first step, communication. But that was much easier than the next. Because the next step was going to mean, what do you do? You sit in a car. Your seatbelt. So I had to demonstrate how to buckle myself into what's called a 4-point safety harness. Now, the safety harness in an airplane is called 4 points because there's 4 different points. A shoulder strap over the left shoulder, a shoulder strap over the right shoulder, a lap belt that weaves through the 2 shoulder straps and buckles in place. I was going to have to do all of that by myself. And as well, I had to get out of that if there was some kind of emergency, as we all have been aware over the last 6 months. There are emergencies that occur, so I had to get out of that as well. So sitting there in the airplane, I turned to my instructor. I said, well, would you mind giving me just a few minutes to myself? I need a little bit more hip room here and leg room to be able to do this. And he said, take all the time you need because you have to buckle yourself in before we can even take off. And you need to get out of there too if there's some kind of emergency. So as I sat there struggling and thinking, and of course thinking about every possible scenario, could I somehow reach with my legs like this? There's only so far your feet can reach because they're not intended to reach around your hips. Could I somehow use my teeth and grab a hold of that strap and maybe use my neck and chin to grab a hold of another strap and do something like that? And of course, that was just going to be a little bit more complicated. So I kept working through all these different scenarios, and I immediately remembered to think outside the shoe. Well, then, what if I first buckle the seatbelt after weaving it through the right shoulder strap and the left shoulder strap. Then, loosen up that strap as loose as I possibly could, as well as the shoulder straps. Loosen up those shoulder straps as loose as I possibly could. And what do you think I did next? Just like the shoe. Sorry about that. I just slipped into the harness just like this, using my legs to pull that strap up over my hips, and eventually I worked it all the way through, and then tightened the left strap with the right foot, tightened the right shoulder strap with the left foot, pulled my lap belt snugly in place, and 45 minutes later, my flight instructor got in, and he was impressed. How did you do it? I was thinking outside the shoe. So it took me 45 minutes that first time, the second time, 35 minutes, the third time 30 minutes, the fourth time, and you get the picture. Eventually over time, like anything, or like the term compound effort, the more you practice and try it, it gets easier. And the compound effort of doing things with my feet and trying that seatbelt in different ways, it ended in results. So think outside the shoe. When you're faced with some kind of adversity, now I know that I keep my nose inside my shoe. So let me make sure that we are on track with time. Because again, I want to leave time at the very end. As I told some of you, I'm going to allocate about 10 to 15 minutes for questions if you have any. So don't hesitate to ask questions, especially the students. I'm going to open that up for you. So think outside the shoe, because too often we get stuck in the same way of doing something, right? What is it called? A habit, right? A habit. Do it the same way everyone else has done it. It's just going to have the same results, but you don't always have to do it the same exact way. Have you ever felt stuck before? Stuck doing something, and you're like, well, I'm doing everything they do, but you're just getting stuck Well, let us each commit to a growth mindset. And instead of doing something out of habit, do something out of intention. Think outside the shoe, because a lot of times I think about shoe, and shoe represents S, self-limiting beliefs, H, habits, O, overcomplication or overwhelm, and E, excuses. We all have them. So let's break free of those shoes. Kick off your shoes if you want to, by the way. If you feel like it, or if your feet aren't clean, no worries. I always get my toes pedicured because I use my feet to eat, and I know people are looking at me very carefully to make sure my feet are clean. So I do keep my feet clean right now. I'm going to probably wash them after I walk around barefoot. So think outside the shoe and don't give up. Think for a moment when you thought the words, I can't do it. There's no way. How am I going to get through this? Persevere. Franklin Roosevelt once said, when you get to the end of the road, tie a knot and hang on. Never give up. Never give up. Whatever you're faced with, don't give up. That's perseverance. Perseverance, just continuing to go at it, no matter what the obstacles are. But I'm going to introduce you to another term. Purposeful perseverance. Taking it to the next level. This is something that I am actually new at describing because it is part of grit. It's connecting the why to the persistence, right? It's finding the reason that you want to overcome, not just overcoming, but finding the fuel that keeps the flame alive when you're trying to persist through something. Because when we connect the why, it makes it much more achievable when you have a good enough reason. Purposeful perseverance is what grit is all about. I moved out of my parents' house back at when I was getting my undergraduate right here. That's why I feel so at home and I love the blue chairs. And of course all the U of A shirts and sweatshirts. But, because college was the best time of my life. And I moved out of my parents' house. My parents were very, very, my mom was specifically more coddling and protective of me, but I was ready to get out there. I was ready to express my independence, so I said, I'm gonna move out, I'm gonna find an apartment, and I'm gonna be on my own. So I found some roommates to help me cover rent, because you know, you're a broke college student. And so there was the apartment, right, it's still there, right across the stadium, Connors Avenue. There's a Connors Avenue, not Connors Avenue, but it's the next street over from Campbell. And I was over there at this little apartment, ready to move in with my roommates, and my roommates were Navajo. So they came from the Navajo reservation, and they didn't have access to their homes as easily as I did. And I needed to figure out, because I was tasked with finding a television for our apartment. Why? Because we had a favorite show we all had in common. And it will remain unnamed so I don't age myself. But we had this common show, and we wanted to watch it every evening after a hard day of class. How hard can it be? We were living the life, but we were so determined to get a TV. So I called up my mom. I said, Mom, I know you're at work right now, but do you mind? She was working as a nurse. I said, Mom, can I please borrow the TV just until my roommates and I can afford to get one? And my mom, she was busy. She wanted to get me off the phone. She said, sure, just check in with Dad, make sure it's okay. And I went home to Dad, and my dad is retired, so the TV means a lot more to him. Dad, could I please borrow one of the TVs just until my roommates and I can afford to get one? He looked me straight in the eyes, and he said, I don't know about that. What does that mean?
No.
It's not going to happen. No. He needs his TV. Well, he had 2 other televisions. You know? Who needs 3 televisions? So, my next challenge was trying to figure out how I was going to move a 22-inch, now this part's going to date me, a 22-inch tube television out of my parents' house without anyone else, and most importantly, without my dad knowing. Well, I knew that about 6:30 in the evening, my dad walks out the front door to water the plants. it would give me 30 minutes to try to attempt the crime. I forgot to tell you this TV was actually a TV/VCR, one of those combos. Remember those? Yeah, you see them in thrift stores right now? I mean, they're so outdated. Yeah, that's what I meant. So I was now tasked with stealing a TV from my dad without anyone's help. No one else was home. It was just up to me. Did I really want a TV that much? My roommates were counting on me back at the apartment. So I knew that we loved this TV show. It was my reason. It was purposeful perseverance. And so I had every reason. The door shut as my dad walked out the front door, and I went to work. I immediately got up and I went over and I unplugged the TV just like this, all from the wall. And I thought maybe I can kick this 22-inch tube television off the TV stand, but then I'd run the risk of breaking the TV. So I needed some kind of tool to help me move the TV. I was looking all over the house. What do you think I was looking for? Rolling chair. Slide. These all things, these wheels, right? Something with wheels, dolly, maybe something with wheels. And so I went tearing through the house, and my brother's room was a skateboard. It was too low, though, to the ground. Then I went out back, my dad's furniture dolly, again, too low to the ground. But then there in the home office was a computer chair with wheels. Right there, Pat, can I borrow that one? The computer chair with wheels was higher up, the seat was higher up. It was less of a distance for me to get the TV off the stand. So I just pushed it up there against the TV stand like this. And then I kicked that TV about 20%, 30% of the way off of the TV stand. I came around front, and just like this, on one leg, I hugged the tube television, and I managed to get it down onto this computer chair with wheels, only to realize the TV was bigger than the chair. Too late. I already had it on the chair. Now all I could do was use my chin to hold the TV in place, use my feet to push the wheels slowly but very carefully through the TV room, through the kitchen. It was so much easier on tile. Finally, one step to the last room of the house. I had to do that one wheel at a time. I was lucky to fall off this chair, but I got it down that single step, one wheel at a time. Finally, through the last room, now through the doorway into the garage, and all I needed to do now was hit the garage door button. And I reached my left foot up there, very shakingly hit the garage door button. And as the door opened, guess who was standing right beside me? My dad took one look at me. He saw the sweat pouring down my face, the strain, the conviction, but most importantly, desire. My eyes, the determination. And he said, "Honey, if I would have known you wanted it that bad, I could have helped you." And he did. He got the TV in my car. I drove it home to my roommates. I told them I learned the importance of purposeful perseverance. And they helped me get it. So next time you are challenged with something, think about the reason that is why you're doing it. What's the why behind it? When it came to flight, it was a series of 2 different instructors at the beginning. Then flying, we started out at Tucson International Airport, and we determined that plane wouldn't work. We had to fly the plane I mentioned to you earlier, the one that can be flown with 2 limbs. So it brought me all the way to California at Spruce Creek Fly-In, and there with another instructor. And he went through all the rigmarole of trying to teach me to train, and he's taught many pilots before, many with disabilities. But he got to the point, he said, well, we need to move to a different airplane, and so we went all the way to Torrance, California, and I still did not get his confidence in flying a plane safely. Safely being the biggest word there. And so one day, so that's 2 airplanes, 2 flight instructors, 2 different states, and many hours of training later, He calls me up and he says, "You know what, Jessica? I think we've done everything we can at this point." For me, what did that translate to mean? I don't think you can do it. It brought me back to the years in childhood. Oh, you don't have arms, you can't do it. You can't do it like everyone with arms. You're a handicap. And in the 90s, that word was politically correct. A very hurtful word that we cannot use now. You're disabled. You're an amputee. There's no way you can do it. Being belittled by people's doubt. And it brought me back. And it made me angry. It made me sad. It made me frustrated. And then it also lit a flame. It fueled a flame from childhood. Yes, I can. I can do this. I can fly like any person with arms and hands. And there was this surge of desire that came from I don't know where. Because if we dig deep enough, we'll find it in each and every one of us in the midst of our challenges if we have a strong enough why. And there I was, finding a reason. And I pulled up a picture of an airplane, the same airplane, the plane that could be flown with 2 limbs, called the Aircube. I pulled it up and put it on the backdrop of my computer, and every morning I woke up and looked at that airplane and I envisioned, like a vision board, power of the law of attraction, I envisioned flying this plane, what it would look like, what it would feel like, what would it sound like, what would it taste like? And it became real. Because eventually I started scouting the country again for another airplane, another instructor, someone who had enough faith in me, and then I could prove that yes, I could continue on my training, and it brought me to Casa Grande Airport, to the Cactus Fly-In, and there I met an instructor, and he said, "Are you serious about continuing your training?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Show up tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. at Salmonville Airport, in my own backyard." Salmonville is about an hour from here. The mining town, many of you may know about it. I showed up the next day at 7 a.m. and on went our training. And he took me to solo. That means he signed me off to fly a plane just myself, and not just my plane, but his plane. His license was on the line, his airplane was on the line, and I was doing all this with just my feet, no special modifications. He then endorsed me with the Federal Aviation Administration to do a check ride. Out came the examiner, knowing nothing about me. His name was Terry Brandt. He came out of Yuma, Arizona. He showed up that day, and I turned to him with that feeling of a little bit of self-doubt. Was he going to judge me from how I looked? Which was a reality in my life, as I shared with all of you. But as I asked him, "Are you going to let me become a pilot?" He told me very confidently, "If you can fly an airplane with your nose, and show me how you can fly a plane safely, I have no reason to hold you back. If you can fly this airplane safely and do everything I ask of you with your feet, I have no reason to hold you back." And that day was so unreal, because I remember coming in on my first landing. It's called a 1,000-foot marker landing. And I turned to him, and he said very confidently, "You can't get any better than that." And that reassurance, that affirmation taught me that I could pass this check ride. And I did, becoming the first pilot in aviation history to fly an airplane with just my feet and getting the Guinness World Record. To prove that if I can fly this plane, what is it that every one of you can do? We have so much unlimited potential, and we can use our grit to get there. We can all have purposeful perseverance. And the last but not least, I don't want to go over time. Are we good on time? Okay, we're going to leave it at some time. Patrick always taps his watch over there. But I have to let you know that this last piece that I'll have to talk to you about at another time is reframe the fear of failure. And just in 30 seconds, I want you to think about what is your own fear. Because fear stands for false evidence appearing real. You choose. Are you going to forget everything and run? Or FEAR, face everything and rise? And that, in this world of entrepreneurship and business ownership, The fear of failure is something that I'm sure all of the students here have faced when they leave this institution. The importance of reframing the fear of failure, seeing it as an opportunity for growth. And that is what's so beautiful about overcoming fear. Because everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. Believe it or not, my greatest fear was flying an airplane. You can do it. And now, since we have a few minutes at the 11:18 mark, I'm going to do as I promised. Are there any questions from the students here who took their rodeo break to be here? Any of the faculty, staff, professors? Please let your Professor James know as well. Rashawn, correct, that I said hello. Anyone have any questions for me? Yes?
How do you wash?
Wash my feet?
Yeah.
Okay, so people run into me in the bathroom all the time, and they don't understand why I'm sitting on the countertop. But I have to have both feet in the sink at the same time. I can't just do one foot, then the other foot. I have to have both feet in order to do the scrubbing. So I do oftentimes have my pants get wet, but I have to dry off the countertop when I have enough time and then wash my feet. Like I'll do shortly after this, right before lunch. I'll probably sit on the countertop, put my feet in the sink, and just grab the soap and make sure my feet are clean. Because look at that, they're a little dirty right now. That's okay.
So you wash them, and then you slip back into your shoes?
Slip into my shoes with dry feet. So I think the paper towels ahead of time.
Oh, okay.
So they're sitting on the counter, the dry part of the counter. And then I can, yeah. Good question though, yeah. Feet washing is important. That's a good one. Hygiene is important. Yes, there's another question here.
How are you able to drive a car? Because like obviously when you drive a car, you can't really, like it's kind of hard to put one foot on the pedal and the other one on the wheel.
Okay, so have you ever driven an automatic vehicle with one hand? The same thing, like if you grabbed your phone or something, you let one hand off the wheel so you're not having two hands on the wheel. The same way I drive. I have one foot on the wheel, one foot alternating the accelerator and brake. And I have a license to prove that I can do that with the examiner. And so it's just like one-handed driving all the time. And rotating feet if I do a long cross-country drive, road trip or something. So good question though, it has to be an automatic, not a stick shift. Yes.
Can you tell us about your next goal and challenge? What are you looking forward to?
And that's also why the University of Arizona is involved. Patrick, do you want to share a little bit about this? We are onto the impossible airplane, the I'm possible airplane.
Yeah. Okay, Reader's Digest version. 2015, released this documentary with another U of A alumni. Went in 80 countries on Nat Geo, a whole bunch of awards.
You can watch it on Amazon Prime for free. It's called Right Footed.
It highlighted Jessica's role as a mentor. We started a nonprofit in 2017. 2019, a pilot said, wait, you're the Armless pilot. You don't have your own airplane, take mine. Suddenly we had our own aircraft. 2020, one of the really nice things about this airplane is it's basically a convertible. You roll the windows down the side and a whole bunch of airflow. So in 2020, we started calling some friends and saying, hey, what are you doing for the 30th anniversary of the ADA? Nothing, it's COVID. How are we gonna, wait, we called up Senator Harkin, retired at that point. He's the one who introduced the ADA. We said, we've got this convertible airplane. He's a pilot, she's a pilot. He introduced the ADA. She benefited from that law. Let's go on a flight. Just the two of them, two people, windows open, go for a flight. But we had to get the air coupe from Tucson all the way to Fredericksburg, Maryland. It's a 1940s airplane. It took us 2 weeks to get there. They flew, it was great. Videos online if you want to watch it. It took 11 days to get back home again. There was a reason to do this. We had the wrong airplane. So we talked to a manufacturer later that year and said, we've got this really crazy idea. You have some of the best airplanes available. They're experimental, so we can modify it any way we want. Would you partner with us and we will build Jessica a custom airplane that she can fly with her feet? They said, sounds like a great idea. We've gotten a whole bunch of partners on board. The U of A engineering interdisciplinary capstone program has helped us come up with some concepts for the modifications and different things. So by the end of this year, that airplane will be complete. We're hoping to unveil it at the world's largest air show in Wisconsin next year. There's a whole, we gotta make sure it works. So we've got a little time there, and the goal is in 2028, hopefully in combination with the Olympics. If anybody knows somebody working on the Olympic or Paralympic committee, come talk to us afterwards. Some combination of flying over the opening ceremonies for the Paralympic Games and coupling with that with Jessica. As far as we know, it won't be solo. I will probably be with her, another safety pilot, being the first woman with a disability to circumnavigate the globe in a small aircraft.
If you haven't named the plane, may I suggest Wilbur?
So, Jessica's been the Goodwill Ambassador for Humanity and Inclusion, a Nobel Peace Prize winning NGO. They work in 60 countries all over the world. Rehab, disaster response, post-conflict, demining operations, those sorts of things. We've seen a lot of the work that still needs to be done all over the world to get people with disabilities integrated into society. In 2012, the WHO estimated that only 3% of kids with disabilities in Ethiopia were attending school, not graduating, just attending. It has significantly improved thanks to HI and a lot of other programs around the world. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and we want to show up in a bunch of these places with this airplane and say, if she can fly an airplane, your kids can go to school, and that needs to be a priority, and a bunch of other messages. So that's the goal.
Changing the stigma. Yeah.
Yep.
We'll continue on with that, and we'll love to. Are there any other questions about? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so you mentioned that when the original pilot told you, I don't think we can do this, or, I don't think you can do this, that you were brought back to childhood, and that being told, like, you can't do things. I'm curious how you work through that in life, because I experienced the same thing of getting thrown back to childhood from my trauma with disability in school and stuff. I'm just curious, like, how do you get your mindset out of that and work past the trauma and being put back in that setting of being a little kid again?
Wow. I don't think I've ever had that question, and I'm glad that we've connected on that level, that there's someone out there who also understands. And I'm sure many of you, if you work with anyone with a disability or have family members dealing with that traumatic experience of being doubted and belittled, it's something I still have to work through, and I think that it'll be part of my life no matter what. And I also have to question, am I doing this for the right reasons? Am I doing this to prove this to other people? Or am I doing this because I passionately want to pursue it? And that's a balance I have to find, and I think that it's something I also work on. But it's the awareness of it is what empowers you. Because if you do something without awareness and you just do it out of unconscious, I'm going to do this, I get angry or whatever. But if you bring the awareness back, that's empowerment. So I think just the fact that you're aware of that and we've connected, that you're a step ahead and just working through that every day. Everyone has to work through their own things one day at a time. So that's awesome. Yeah.
Can I do a follow-up? Did you ever go back to the pilot that gave up on you and have a
Oh yeah, he was an amazing instructor. In fact, he is in the documentary as admitting that he gave up on me, essentially, but in softer terms. But it was never about proving him wrong, because he had supported me all those ways from Florida to California and put all this money and time, everything into me. It wasn't him personally, and I wasn't attacking him personally.
Yeah.
I was just saying it to all those people in my life who told me you couldn't, and my translation of what he said. Maybe he was just saying this method's not going to work, but somehow it triggered my younger self. So yeah, I did go back to him. We're actually good friends. He lives in New York and or New Jersey and also in Maine, and we're just good buddies, pilot buddies now. I call them regularly. so yeah, no hard feeling, no hurt feelings there. It was a trigger. So yeah, great question though. Other questions from anyone? Yes.
So you've mentioned ADA a number of times, and I know in the UK they're doing some really great work on bringing awareness to hidden disabilities. ADA is kind of old news, I would say, in a lot of ways, even though it's still bringing incredible benefit. But what are some of the things that you see going on currently, some new and exciting things that are enabling more people with disabilities to thrive?
And since that's a great question to end with, I'm going to pass the ball to Patrick because he and I get to do this. He's coming from the standpoint that he essentially has a hidden disability because he has tinnitus, and that's hard as a pilot. So he can share with you on that a little bit. And do you want to do that video?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we'll end with this video.
Well,
And say a word. Why don't you preface it with what you're saying you're doing?
I don't know where. I'm sorry.
The question is what are we continuing to do?
Yeah.
What are some of the exciting
Yeah.
things that you see going on now that are enabling people with disabilities to really thrive?
So, not to get into the politics of this, because this would certainly become a rabbit hole. In Israel, they have a program for people with disabilities, where when you step into a building, either through your phone Bluetoothing to a sensor in the building or scanning a key card, they know how many people with disabilities are in a given building, what their disabilities are, so that in the event of something going wrong, they know what response needs to be sent to what building in order to accommodate those disabilities. Now here in the US, it's, I can't ask you about your disability. I can't ask the details. I can't dig into it because we're, quite frankly, here in the US, so obsessed with privacy. And that's a whole other debate on where the line should be. But there is an argument to be made for greater transparency, being more forthcoming, so that the right response or the right accommodations can be made, in my opinion.
This is a powerful video. We need to leave you with a very good send-off. Dean Kanan, I don't want to take up too much more time, but can we share this last video? It's 3.5 minutes,
Absolutely.
and it's a powerful video. It is.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, what is it?
Oh, it's called We're the Superhumans. It was a commercial before the Rio Games, Paralympic Games, and it was wonderful to be a part of this, but you'll see exactly why right now.
And if you've never heard an audio described video, go to YouTube, look this up. This has an accompanying video that is one of the best audio descriptions out there.
Yes, I can, suddenly, yes, I can. Gee, I'm afraid to go on as turned into, yes, I can. Take a look, what do you see? 133 pounds of confidence. Got the feeling I can do anything, yes, I can. Something that sings in my heart is telling me, yes, I can. I was just born today, I can go all the way, yes, I can. 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 Hey, yes, I can. No, you can't. Yes, I can. Are you ready? I can climb Everest. Yes, I can. I can find you on Everest. Yes, I can. I was just born today. I can go all the way there.
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Thank you.
we can. Wonderful presentation. Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate it. And Patrick here, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing this. And this is so inspiring to learn from the best, from people like this. We got to trust in ourselves. I think we've got a great group of people. We can accomplish a lot. Thanks for your participation.
And we will be back out in the lobby to answer more questions if you'd like, and we'll have copies of Jessica's book. They're $20 each. We can do cash or credit card, so just come find me and I'll be happy to get you one, and you'll sign them?
And I'll sign them for you.
And I have a copy of her book. My son has read it. Unfortunately, I forgot to bring him from home this morning. That's what she was referring to. It's a great book. It's truly inspiring. So my pleasure for that too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.